First thing I should say is, you make sure that when you've got the vehicle elevated that you've got a jack stand underneath. Then the other thing of working on brakes is brake fluid is corrosive. It's harmful. You don't really want to get it on your skin if you can help it. You don't want to get it on the paint because it will destroy the paint. If you do happen to splash some on the paint, generally you want to rinse it off with water because it'll mess up the paint pretty fast. And the other side of things is you don't want to get any oil on the brake fluid related part, the boots and the seals and so forth, because mineral oil on brake fluid parts will make the rubber swell up and cause them to be non-functional. Years ago when I worked in brake engineering, I actually didn't have a choice on a particular lab test I was doing, and I had to soak brake fluid seals in mineral oil, and I left them overnight. And by the time I got back the next day, I needed a press to take them apart because the seals had swelled to about 50% larger than their regular size. It was in a test fixture, but the principle holds. It's pretty dramatic. So never get mineral oil on your brake fluid. Brake fluid seals. Got some tools here for taking springs off. Generally what you gotta do is start by taking these springs off this way. Let's see if this tool will still get them. Yep, there we go. Come on. There we go. This tool's got a ramp on it that you get underneath the spring and rotate, and it lifts it off the post. Like so. And sometimes they come off easier than others. Alright. So take these and lay them out carefully. But they're pretty gooped up. That spring is all wet. Put those up there. I didn't want it to come apart quite that fast, but that spring should go with the parking brake lever. The lever would have come in this way. And we have the cross link that comes in like that with its spring on its end. And there's a lever for that guy. These little pins can be kind of challenging at times, but generally a good bite with a needle nose pliers. And a screwdriver will get you through them. You just got to turn them 90 degrees, and then they'll pop apart. A little more. There we go. Got this guy up on the plate off the top. Should be able to spread this. Bring it down. You want to be very careful with these parts because right and left hand parts matter. They're not the same. And the direction of this spring matters. So I always try to just lay things out in order. And then there's an E-ring or a C-ring, depending on your point of view, holding the parking brake lever onto the brake shoe. Trying to get this ring off of here. Use a hammer on it, I suppose. Let's try this one more time. Yeah, it's coming loose now. And then that guy goes that way. And man, those things are really soaked in brake fluid, so I'll have a lot of cleaning to do. Here comes one of the pistons, all by itself. Pistons, that's the inside. It has a little corrosion, it looks like, on the edges. Discoloration, but it's not bad. Let's get the other end off. Okay, here comes brake fluid. I was expecting that. Yes, this side. There's a fair amount of rust inside the boot. Get some more light on the topic here. The ends of the wheel cylinder on the outside under the boots don't look too bad. But there is corrosion in the bore, so well, I'd rather not put pliers on it, but it is just the push rod, so. Here it comes. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. A little corrosion. And these things have been sitting around for many years, not going anywhere, so let's see if we can get the seals out. Come on. There it goes. Let's get the other cup out of there. Okay. The seal off the other side. It's expander, and there's a little corrosion inside of it. Alright, so I'm going to get in there with a flashlight so I can get a better look. Let's see what we got. I'm going to try to clean the bore up on this wheel cylinder and see if it'll clean up. What I've got is a socket, actually a 13mm socket, and it's wrapped with crocus cloth. Not emery paper, not emery cloth. Crocus cloth is really fine stuff. You just use it for polishing, so it really doesn't take off much material. It's you know, some people stick a hone in these things, but that's just usually not a good idea. So I'm just going to work this through back and forth and around. As I said, I used a socket just so I can get some, I'll call it some leverage on it. And I wrapped it around until it's just about the size of the bore. I usually like to go around rotary, but sometimes you gotta do what you can get. I wrapped around just enough so that it just fits inside the wheel cylinder. Now at this stage, I've finished cleaning the part. Let's see if I can get it's hard to get a good picture in there, but the pitting on the bore wasn't bad, and I've gotten it cleaned out with the crocus cloth. And You might ask, hey, I'd just go replace the wheel cylinder. And I might. The reality on this car is, with its age, I can't just go down to the parts store and pick up parts. I have to order them. It'll be a few days before they get here. Pulling the wheel cylinder on here is not quite as easy as some of the old ones where you just unbolted them. This one's got a kind of a fancy spring clip, and you can go in and pull it apart, and I've got the instructions, and I could pull it out. It also has metric threads, so I have to order a metric tube nut wrench. All my things are English and none of them fit. So while I have a little time waiting for my parts to come back, I figured I'd clean up this old one, and then I'll order a new wheel cylinder as backup in the event, along with a tool, in the event that it proves out that it still doesn't seal. But generally speaking, if you can clean the bore up with crocus cloth and not have to go into heavier abrasives, a wheel cylinder kit ought to fix it. And then I'll put the wheel cylinder on the shelf. Normally I'm very careful about buying parts and not buying too much, but ordering parts and having to wait a few days to get them gets to be a pain. And so sometimes I'll spend a little bit of extra money to go ahead and have parts to spare. Spares on the shelf. Not for the whole car, but I'd rather have the parts available in some of these cases. Just a few last comments before I go. When I finished here, I went over to the left-hand side and repeated this process. I just didn't video it. The wheel cylinder on that side was not leaking yet, but it did have a piston that was stuck. And I got that freed up and out and crocus clothed out and ready to go, just like this one. I'm going to go through and use brake clean and clean things up, with the caution that you really want to be careful with brake clean because it will hurt plastic and rubber parts. So you don't want to get any on the rear axle seal. I don't want to use it in the brake fluid inside the wheel cylinder. I'll clean that with something different, probably alcohol. And then I'll go ahead and going to drop my parts order in, and we'll wait and see when the parts come back, and we'll work on getting it back together.